I don't like putting myself in a box. So when I was an athlete, I was very conscious to be more than just an athlete. Like and nobody really knew about that, you know. So when I was an athlete, I've rang so many people to help me over the years, and I still do. I do it all the time. I do a phone call with someone today from my track career to help me, but I always wanted to be prepared for that help. So I would say one of the strategies that I think has helped me is preparing myself.
Hello everyone, you're very welcome to our session this evening, and I'm hoping you all had all the chocolate and the wine and the flowers and all the fun stuff yesterday, because today we're going to talk about female founder life, a Bloodsport. So we're going to talk about all the things that we need to do to be resilient and get ourselves back up and continue to do what we need to do to build our businesses. We have a fantastic set of guests with us tonight. So we've got Sally Ann Cherry, we've got DervalO'Rourke, and we have Perry and Jacqui Meskell from Huggnote. So before I hand over to our host for the evening, Claire McGee, I just want to go through some housekeeping rules. So first and foremost, if this is your very first AwakenHub event, you are absolutely welcome. Thank you so much for coming along. You're with friends. We're here to support and help you. And I hope you really enjoyed the session tonight. So how this usually runs, we have a conversation with the founder, followed by a breakout room, followed by another conversation and another breakout room. Now, if you are scared or worried about going into breakout rooms, believe me, they are really friendly. Everyone is here to help and support. And that breakout room, nobody will sell to you, nobody will pitch to you, and nobody will ask you really hard questions, I promise. So please, if you haven't given breakout rooms a go, it's honestly our secret sauce. Give it a go. We will record the session today, and that session will be put up online, and you can see it on our website, awakenhub.com. If you're on Twitter, you can tell that we are chatty. So please tweet, and anything you learn or things that you hear along the way that are interesting, please tweet. The hashtag for tonight is AwakenHub. So on behalf of the founding team, myself, Mary Carty, Claire McGee, Sinead Crowley, and Mary McKenna, welcome everyone and enjoy the session. Claire McGee, over to you.
Thanks, Mary. And everyone, you're very welcome. Women entrepreneurs are some of the bravest people I know. Virtually all of them have battled setbacks, doubt and resistance, and have gone on to build businesses that provide solutions to problems, create jobs and bring new products and services to market. Through the tough times, every one of them has discovered opportunity in adversity. They have struggled, they've dug deep, changed direction when needed, recalibrated their priorities and found meaning in their mission and their teams. Each one of them stretched themselves and succeeded magnificently in their own way. This evening, I'm excited to be chatting with 4 female founders from across the island of Ireland, DervalO'Rourke, Sally Ann Cherry, and sisters Jacqui and Perry Meskell, on their stories of tenacity and resilience. First up, we are virtually heading to Cork, and I'm delighted to welcome DervalO'Rourke, perhaps most widely known as Irish former sprint hurdles athlete who competed at 3 Olympic Games and held the title of world champion in sprint hurdles. Many of you will know her from our TV screens as coach on RTE shows Ireland's Fittest Family, and she is also RTE sports panelist. Not only that, but she is also an author of 2 best-selling cookery books, writes a weekly column in the Irish Examiner. She is a wife and a mommy to 2 children, and on top of all that, she is a successful female entrepreneur, founder of Derval.ie, an online health and wellness platform, which in 2020 launched an e-commerce shop, which now stocks over 200 amazing fitness, lifestyle and self-care products. Derval, a huge AwakenHub welcome to you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's lovely to welcome everyone into my attic in Cork. So it's great to be here. I just think female entrepreneurs are amazing. I think what it takes to become one and to have a journey that you stay on is really difficult. So it's an absolute privilege that you'd invite me. So thank you.
Brilliant. And we don't have much time because our AwakenHub community events, we only have an hour and 15 minutes, and it really does fly. And we're trying to get as many golden nuggets out of you as possible in the next 20 minutes. So just to kick off, our audience, I think, would love to hear more about your personal background, Derval.
Yeah, so I guess my background before I started my business is in sport. I was a track athlete for kind of in around 12 years. So I'm from Cork originally, and I left Cork. I went to UCD. I got a scholarship to run, which was amazing, but it kind of opened up my world. So running kind of opened up my world for me, because it just meant, it enabled me to go away to college, then enabled me to travel the world. So I spent 12 years as a professional athlete, which I think in a lot of ways is really similar to being an entrepreneur, in that you're kind of striving towards something that not a lot of people do, and that seems quite unrealistic at times, but yet you feel really passionate about it. And I think those 12 years as a track athlete, when I started my career, I certainly didn't think it would be 12 years. I thought best case scenario, I might get to 1 Olympics. I never thought that I would go to 3. I never thought I would win any major medals, but my expectations and my goals kept increasing as time went on. And that was kind of through experience and through hard work, and honestly through having some really bad days and having the capacity to keep coming back from them. So that was kind of my 20s into my early 30s. I was always very, very aware that my career would end and that I would have to figure out something else to do. So I did my degree in UCD, then I did a postgrad in Smurfit Business School, then I did a master's in Smurfit, and then, which is not really probably a direct route from a Smurfit master's, I went into cookery school, and I did, because I loved cooking, and I felt like there was something in that whole space of healthy eating and making it accessible for people and just making it enjoyable. So my career was going on track, and at the same time I always had this little voice in my head going, this isn't forever, like what are you going to do afterwards if this ends tomorrow, if you get an injury tomorrow, like what do you do, like what's on your CV, who can you pick up the phone to and ask them for an interview for a job, and if you do ask someone for an interview for a job, what job can you actually do? So I was always very aware of that. And then my career did end I think I announced my retirement in 2014. And I had kind of 2 years where I would say I was transitioning out of being a track athlete. I became a mom. I was spent some time working in rugby, and I was kind of working for other people, doing other things. And that 2 years period, definitely, I kept being drawn back to that idea of chasing my own dream and chasing something that I really cared about, something that I was passionate about. And working for someone else just wasn't that. It didn't make me want to get up in the morning and do it and do the crazy stuff that you do when it's your own gig. So for those 2 years, I guess I was definitely trying to find myself. I was trying to figure things out, and I had loads of ideas. Like what I really cared about was making health and wellness easier and more accessible to people like me and my friends. How do you do that? How do you make life for women a little bit easier to mind themselves? Because I think the world is hard for women, and how do you make that kind of self-care, and like how can you make it easier, genuinely easier as well, not just kind of like, oh, let's pretend it's easy, but it's still hard. So I was looking at loads of different ideas, loads of different things, and I guess I landed on the world of digital because I had written 2 cookbooks. So the cookbooks again came out of that passion with health and wellness. I pitched the cookbooks, and thankfully I was fortunate in that. I think coming from my background and having a little bit of a profile, the door is open, but then when you get in front of someone, you have to be good enough and you have to be able to back it up. So I always appreciated that the doors were opening, but then I knew I had to be really, really ready once I walked in the doors. And so my cookbooks, I was really fortunate that I had a publisher, they went well. And then I kept seeing this trend in digital of like everybody was online. I was on my phone all the time. So how do you turn that into something digital? My background wasn't in tech, and it took me a while. Like I launched Derval.ie really badly twice. The third time it wasn't necessarily brilliant, but it worked. And it was like, and it has been from the start, it's been this massive roller coaster of, and I say it all the time, and it's funny, I was in a meeting today where I always reference back to that 12 years of being an athlete, because there's so much in that 12 years that at the time it didn't feel relevant to life going forward. But now I go, yeah, okay, that experience kind of stands to me now. So I think, yeah, hopefully that's a summary, Claire, and I'll stop talking now.
Most athletes, Derval, have not been able to transfer their success from the sports arena to the business arena. But you have. Can you share with us any strategies that you've used to help you succeed?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I guess I don't like putting myself in a box. So when I was an athlete, I was very conscious to be more than just an athlete. Like and nobody really knew about that, you know. So when I was an athlete, I never wanted. So when I'm talking about, like, I've rang so many people to help me over the years, and I still do. I do it all the time. I do a phone call with someone today from my track career to help me. But I always wanted to be prepared for that help. So I'd say one of the strategies that I think has helped me is preparing myself. And like, if I don't know something about something, I will try and find out. I'll do my research. I'll put in a bit of graft on it, and I'll get so I might not know something now, but if I need to know, I'll know a lot about it in 4 weeks' time because I'll do my research. And I think that strategy has really helped, that I haven't just expected people to go, oh, we used to like her jumping hurdles, like, let's give her an opportunity. And I also think as a female, I think people are less likely to do that. I think people don't expect as many maybe former female sports people to start their own companies and do that kind of thing. So I think that strategy of feeling like the expectation was so low for me to do what I'm currently doing, that gave me a lot of power. Like, and I never view that as a negative. So like my strategy in that is like, no one expects this. So whatever I achieve, no one's going to really see it coming anyway. And, you know, there was a lot of power in that. So I'd say that unexpected, always being prepared. Yeah, honestly, it's a great question. I wish I had a better answer, because I do, and I'm really interested in former sports people. I'm constantly like looking people up and contacting people and seeing the stuff they do now, and people do well in different areas. But also, like, my sports career, I would say that I high performance managed a lot of that myself with an amazing team, but I was always very much into managing it, and I took a lot of that on. So I never sat there and expected to be gifted a career in track and field. It would not have happened. And with my work and my business, I never sat here and expected someone to walk into my living room and say, do you know what, here's a business that will pay you a wage, that will let you do what you want to do and let you run with your passion. I kind of went, I'm going to have to make it happen. And I think that's the case, I think, for anybody. If you want to do something, like, you have to figure out how to make it happen. No one's going to walk into your house and hand it to you.
Yeah, and do you think in the world both of athletics and indeed in business that being a female makes it that bit harder?
Oh, I mean, I think being a female in the world in general can be a bit harder, right? In lots of ways. So I think we have a long way to come in terms of society and in terms of maternity leave, paternity leave, our expectation of how we divide our households, who's doing what, the childcare, all that kind of stuff, who's sitting around tables making decisions, what companies are being invested in, who's having to work a bit harder to get in front of investors, all that kind of stuff. So for me, I think it's not so much like an athlete question, because I come from a sport that is very much, I think males and females are on a par. So in track and field, you get the same media attention, you get the same funding, sponsorship opportunities are very similar. But I think then when it comes to decision-making roles, that's where you start to see differences. So for me, I just think as a society, we just need to do better when it comes to the positions women are in and how we support that. And you can't just support it in a meeting. It's what happens 24 hours in the day, because the things that happen all day long are the things that impact whether you can actually make a business work or not.
It's very much the you cannot be what you cannot see. When we talked previously, you talked about your coaches was a woman, a man and woman team, or a husband and wife team, and that really had an impact or an influence on you. Can you talk a wee bit more about that?
Yeah, so I was coached by male and female coach. They were husband and wife, and when they started coaching me, they had 3 small kids who are all very big now, which is mad. And they also had a business. So they were coming to the track with me, juggling these 3 kids, and then they were going home and they were running this business. And the wife, her name was Terry Cahill, like she was a powerhouse. Like, so she would be on the track talking to me about very specific detailing on a schedule for a track athlete to peak at a major championship to try and win a global medal. And then she would be telling me that she was going home to do invoicing, to organize like all this other stuff to do with their business. So I found that like hugely inspiring in that. And she was also this amazing mum to these 3 kids. Like, how does she make it all work? Now, I think she goes to sleep at about 8 p.m. But I just, to be around that and to see that and to see like the energy she had for elite sport, the energy she had for the business and how she was making it work was very, very impactful for me. And I think that's really important. And I think it's important that like we see those people, we see those women who are, and I won't say doing it all, because I think it's very hard to do it all. And I think we can be quite harsh on ourselves, but who are doing various things and they're making it work. And you don't hear a lot about them. And it's funny, when I used to do well in my track career, people used to always reference Sean, my coach, a lot more than they used to reference Terry, which I always found quite interesting. But yeah, she was a huge influence. And even when I retired, you know, I would be very close to her. And I retired, had my first baby, and she was one of the people helping me. I was saying, you know, I'm trying to do this, what would you do? And she's amazing, great brain. And I think having access to people like that and seeing that is really, really important.
That leads me right into my next question. I mean, you're a high achieving female founder, but you also have a family and loved ones that require a different side of you at home. You know, how do you leave the entrepreneur at the door and then be the most loving family member at home? You know, how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's again, it's a really good question. I probably don't have the best or a right answer for that. I think we need to be better at expecting the same amount from our partners and our support structure as we expect from ourselves. So for me, like I doubt many people in my husband's work are asking him, you know, how does he find that transition of when he gets home, and like, and I always try and push that back on him as well, that, you know, I adore my kids, like they are utterly my priority, but I also have other things going on in the same way my husband has other things going on. So I think that's really, really hard. And I definitely, you know, my husband's definitely married someone who's constantly beating that drum of like, well, you know, why is this expectation on me? Like, why is that expectation not on you? And I think I'm very vocal in that, in my own house and with my, you know, our support structure of like, you know, I was fortunate in one way, like my mom was at home when I was younger, so that was a very supportive environment. But then, you know, for her as a grandparent with me working, that's a very different thing for her to see. So, you know, I think you have to be very like, okay, I'm doing this because it's the right thing for me. It's my passion. It makes me also, I think it makes me a better parent that I go out and I work and I do different things. And I also have a daughter, and I hope that she thinks she can grow up and have a business and be a boss or be whatever she wants to be. I hope this is one of the options that looks open to her.
And at AwakenHub, we know only too well the importance of finding your tribe. And I read an article where you talked about, you know, how your tribe kind of changes too over time. And in your opinion, how important is it to find your tribe that have that similar mindset to you?
Yeah, I think it's very, like one of the sentences I said today, I was in the office earlier, I was like, there's somebody who's struggled with this problem recently who's found a solution. So let's figure out who we can get on the phone about it. And there's always someone, you know, at a different phase in your life who can help you. And one of the things I always did as an athlete, I'll always do it now, is I'll always ask people for help. And I'll always ask people who have done what I'm trying to do, how they did it. And I think generally people want to help you. And if they don't, it's probably because they're not in a position to in that moment in time. There'll be somebody else to step in to help you. So for me, I think knowing there's various people that I can lean into, and I think particularly women who are in a similar situation, like it's funny, and I was saying this on the phone we chat, like I have different groups in my phone and different WhatsApp groups, and some of them will be around, one might be organizing a play date with the kids or figuring summer camps. Another one will be about, okay, who's looking into investment? Who's considered this? Another one might be about something to do with tech. Like they're so varied, but like there are so many different, particularly women, who feed into what I do and make my life so much better and so much easier because I collaborate. And everybody won't be your person either. I think that's the thing. I think if you reach out to one or two people and that doesn't quite click, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be getting help from other people. It just means that you need to reach out to someone else. And as I said, it mightn't be a time or a place, but I think you can find people. I think it's too hard owning your own, in my opinion, it's too hard to be very isolated and to not look for that help and look for those groups that want to sit around a table with you. And like, for example, here, be in a breakout room and in a safe space, tell you something that you're struggling with. I think it's too hard not to get that help.
Yeah, and if you don't ask, you don't get either. So it's always good kind of to have an ask. And if someone's willing then to help you with that ask, then that's how, the collaborations work, which is interesting. So you have to be resilient, tenacious, and grow with thick skin without losing who you are and your passion that drives you forward on your entrepreneurial journey. Can you share with us how you tackle this and maybe leave us with your top 3 tips?
Yeah, that's really hard. Again, your questions are very good, Claire, but they're hard. I would say one thing that I've had with me for a really long time, which has been hugely impactful for me, is that I'm not worried about failing. I don't fear that. I don't worry that it'll all go wrong and that people will be laughing or judging me. Like, what I did was very public. It was very exposed. It's very vulnerable to stand on a start line with 80,000 people kind of in a pair of knickers and try and run for your life. So, and I had many, many days that went badly wrong. So for me, there was a time when I was younger that things going wrong really bothered me. And then I had the lowest point in my running career and something clicked and it never bothered me again. And when I started out the business, and when I was saying the website failed twice, it wasn't fun. It was stressful, but I didn't fail. The website failed. The website isn't me. They're two different things. So I think that's really important. I think if you know you're doing your best, you're trying to problem solve, you're being very fair to yourself, to everyone else, then I think failure, it might happen. That's okay. The sun will come up tomorrow. So I think that's very important. The next thing which I probably touched on a lot is ask people for help. So many people have been where you are. They've been there before you. They've made the mistakes. They'll probably try and help you not make those mistakes. I think that's hugely important. And then I think the third thing that's been really impactful for me, particularly recently, is when I started like down this journey, honestly, it was a concept, it was an idea. And I loved the idea that I could make things a little bit easier for people. And I still feel the same way, but I know now I'm at a stage where my business needs something slightly different. And this year we're about to go on a big tech journey because that will make our product better ultimately. And I think knowing where you're trying to go is really important. And I think 5 years ago, I knew where I was trying to go, and it's not where I'm trying to go now. The soul of the business is the same, to make things better and make health and wellness easier for people, but we're going to have to do it in a slightly different way. So I know the roadmap to that, and things are never a surprise to me because I generally know the roadmap. So hopefully that's a third. I won't keep going because I'll just keep giving you points that may or may not be useful.
No, and just to recap on the top tips, don't fear failure, ask for help, and follow your roadmap.
Yes.
I know, Derval, we could talk all day, and the 20 minutes really does run pretty quickly, and I'm sure there's lots of other nuggets that we could get out of you over time, but luckily enough, it's time to move into the breakout rooms and give everyone the chance to meet with others in the Awakenhub community.